Welcome to a special edition of Total Disclosure Podcast, coming to you directly from Contact in the Desert 2025 Event Horizon, the epicenter of exploration, discovery, and all things otherworldly. I'm super happy to be joined today by host of Unidentified Alien Podcast, Stephen. How you doing?
Doing great, Tyler. Happy to be here with you.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. I love when we get to come out to these things. And yeah, of course, interviewing people like Peter Robbins, Bassett, Salas, those interviews are some of my favorite to get, but also bringing the community together in a way, offline, right?
Yeah.
Off the platforms like X, off the platforms like Reddit, and really being able to sit down and collaborate. And, today we're going to sit down for a 20-minute exclusive with you. You're a voice that I think people are going to want to hear. And I think you have something of an exclusive to tell us, right?
Yes.
How do you approach the topic of UAPs with your podcast? And, quickly, just to surmise, how did you get into the topic?
Yeah, so on both accounts, the topic itself is just really something I was always interested in. Well, actually, I'll rephrase that. Up until about 15 or 16, I was terrified of it. Didn't want anything to do about it. When I would see a face of a gray on X-Files, on something like that, I was just like, oh my gosh, get it away from me. This is terrifying. But then something changed around, I don't know, maybe like early 20s, somewhere in there, maybe about 20 years old. And I really started to get more interested than scared. Instead of letting the imagery scare me, I let the idea fascinate me.
Okay.
And the idea of, well, what if? Like, what are all these stories? How come you have the Nazca lines and you have the pyramids and you have all these ancient stories that actually kind of line up with what people are saying now about visitors and other lives? So it was around like college age where I started really questioning all of it. And my first deep dive, well, there was two. The first one was the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, yeah.
And to this day, like, just really, really, really fascinates me.
I just watched the Unexplained episode on that, and yeah, I that one's one that
It's wild.
It's wild.
The
It is
Philadelphia
wild.
experiment.
Yeah.
And then Edgar Casey.
You're right.
Edgar Casey is another one where, and you talk about ancient Egypt, what he says about the Sphinx, what might be buried under the paw, and talk about Atlantis and how everything connected. So those two things really led me down the rabbit hole, as we say all the time, the path, the rabbit hole, whatever you want, a cliche you want to use. And then it turned into me watching documentaries and shows, and the people that you and I have interviewed, like Nick Pope, I would see in these shows, and I would be taking notes about what they were saying. And now we're talking to them on our own shows. So it's really something how life comes full circle like that sometimes. And when I started UAP almost 4 years ago, in July of 21, and I never expected it to be more than just me talking about my favorite alien stories.
Right.
And it's turned into something that I could have never even planned for, which is just an unbelievable community of people who really thoroughly enjoy what I do, what I present, how I present it, which is just, here are the details, here's the story, here's the interview, the questions, the answers, and you make up your own mind. So it's fantastic. I love it.
You recently did an interview with Lou Elizondo. Now, I only bring this up because Elizondo has been in the news a lot recently, not something positive.
Right.
So that interview that you did landed at a pretty weird time.
It did.
So I unfortunately haven't been able to watch it yet, but did Lou address any of the because the way I see it is if you are going to step in front of Congress and you are going to be representing legacy UFO programs like ATIP, and why do you think he showed that picture?
It was the first question I asked him.
Okay.
I said, okay, listen.
Let's get the elephant out of the room.
That's exactly what I said. I said, look, Lou, elephant in the room. Let's get this out of the way. We can't pretend like this didn't happen. Why did you show the picture? What happened? Was it just a mistake? what was the situation? And that's what he said. He's like, look, I'm not infallible. He's like, I make mistakes like everybody else. And he said the way it went down, and this is Lou's version of the story, the way it went down was he was about to go on in, I guess it wasn't a congressional hearing, obviously.
Yeah.
He was at that one that you and I were both at November of 24, where he was sworn in. This was not that. This was more along the lines of a round table discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me to moderate. Avi Loeb is there, Eric Davis is there, amongst others, and they asked me to moderate it. He's like, before I go on, I have a pilot friend who I trust come up to me and say, I want you to look at this. I want to show this to you. What do you think? He's like, do you want to show it to them while you're out there? And he's like, look, it's not vetted. It's not anything that's gone through the process of being debunked or not. He's like, so I trusted the guy and I decided to show the picture and say, this was not vetted. And he kept saying to me when I was talking to him, he's like, maybe I didn't say it enough. He's like, but I kept trying to say this isn't vetted. I was handed this picture. I want to show it. But you and I both know what happens. When you put out a picture of a purported UFO, that's what sticks in people's minds. And they're going to think you're showing us a picture of a UFO and you lied to us, or you misrepresented, or you're just dumb and you didn't know it was fake. So unfortunately, there wasn't a good result at all on what he did, unfortunately.
What strikes me the most about that is you got to know, and Lou specifically, you have to understand that he has to know that what he puts out is going to be dissected for every minute, every second, every word, every enunciation, every picture is going to be analyzed, and it's going to be written over and talked about and analyzed. So to show something that's not vetted, of course, we're all human and we make mistakes, but I think what most people will agree on is why make that mistake at that time, right?
Yeah, it's a fair critique. I mean, I would equate Lou, and I didn't say this to him, but I should have. Maybe I will if I speak to him again another time. I would equate Lou to, for better or for worse, a quarterback of a football team. Like, he's the guy that's out in front of the camera the most. He's the biggest name in this field. Like it or not, that's just the way it is. We can talk about Ross Coulthart, we can talk about Corbell or anybody else, or Greer, right? And they all are great in their own respect, but he's the guy.
Yes.
And to your point, when he says something or shows something, it is going to be critiqued very much. Just like a quarterback, if the quarterback is at a nightclub and his picture snapped at him with some girl who's not his wife, that's going to go all over. You're going to be critiqued. You're going to be dissected in the same ways.
Like Brett Favre.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So it's to finish off that analogy there. But so it was just unfortunate. And, I asked him, I said, do you think you were set up? And he said, I don't think so, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's like, I trusted the guy who gave it to me. So he's like, I don't think he would do that to me. It's like, I'm not going to, say that it's out of the question.
But and I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here because we have much more to talk about. It's just because then he leaves the UAP disclosure fund
right
shortly after.
Right.
With Matt Ford,
mm-hmm.
and Mellon stays on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Elizondo left TTSA, Mellon left with him. So when Elizondo left TTSA, Mellon went with him. So I hope that relationship is still there because I think they're a good team.
It is, and he mentioned that too. And this was actually off the air. I ran out of time. We spoke for 2 hours. We had booked an hour and a half, and I ran out of time, but still talked to him after we were done recording. And one of the things that we talked about afterwards that didn't make the recording was it's all good when it comes to Mellon and Ford.
Yeah, I think people are looking.
Yeah, they're all good. The relationship's fine. He's like literally, dude, I had a timeline. He's like, I told him I'm going to do it for this long. He's like, the time is up on it. He's like, I'm just running out of bandwidth. I think he used the phrase of burning the candle on both ends. He's like, I just can't do it anymore. And that's really what it came down to. He's like, Mellon didn't want me to leave. He's like, I can show you the text messages. He's like, no, I'm not allowing you to resign. He's like, but I can't do it anymore. I have to cut something out, and this was always the plan was to leave. So
Yeah.
again, funny timing, kind of like
Yeah.
the interview I did with him. That was also funny timing.
Right. Series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
But let's turn the table back to you and what you've been doing. I think the interviews that you put out, they're very well researched, and you ask provocative questions, and it's not the same old interview, which is really what I like in a podcaster and a host. You're doing something a little bit unique. So it's part of the podcast, but it's a subset of it, right? So maybe you want to talk about a little bit about what you've been doing.
Yes. So this is the exclusive.
Yes. Exclusivo.
Yes, this is it. So back in November of 24, around the time actually that we were at the Congressional hearing, the idea, very, very soft pitch, was presented to me about doing some type of investigative series. Like a 6, 8, 10 episode season on one thing. Because as you know, with UAP, it's all about, here's the story for that episode. At most, I'm going to do 2 parts. I think I've only done 1 3-parter, like in the 4 years I've been doing the show. And then I move on.
Right.
Next story, next guest, whatever it might be. So I was, again, soft pitch of, what do you think about doing something like this? And I was like, you know what? It actually has been something that I thought about, but I just don't have the time.
Right.
Is the problem. And then I was like, maybe I do. And I thought about it, and I thought, okay, what would this be like if I did a whole season on something? What would that subject be? And I went through a couple different ideas in my head. And then January rolls around of this year, and I have someone reach out to me who you're going to hear in this new series. I can only call him Mr. J.
Mr. J. Mr.
J is someone who has never been on any other show. And I'm not saying this as like,
to brag.
It's not that. And I always want to make that clear, because I do not like to brag. I always feel very uncomfortable about that. But it's somebody who just reached out to me. He's in Europe, and he came to me and he's like, look, I really want to tell you about my experiences. And I take that with a lot of caution. And I'm not trying to put anybody down when someone tries to tell me their experiences. By all means, I always love reading those messages, and I take them seriously. But when someone says, I want to talk to you face to face through Zoom, that's when I start to say, I don't know. But I went for it, and I took the chance. And his story led me to say yes to this new venture. His story revolves around his lifelong abductions and unexplained medical conditions resulting from them.
Ooh.
So that led me down the path of, I need to do this. It's going to be 10 episodes, a whole season, 10 episodes long, one after the other, one every week. It's not a Netflix binge where I throw it all out. It's more like Mandalorian, Disney Plus, where it's one after the other. And it's all about, for 10 episodes, AHI, anomalous health incidences or issues. And it covers that phenomenon of people who have implants, abductions, close encounters, and they all have the common thread of having some type of unexplained medical condition documented. Not some guy in the street saying, look at this scar I got from an alien, and
we're talking more like John Burroughs, who has a documented case of health effects after coming in contact with a craft.
100%.
Right?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yes.
So is it fair to say that, you'll be talking about things like Havana syndrome?
Yes.
Okay. And, we know that Dr. Gary Nolan has been doing a lot of work on that, directed energy weapons, and not directed energy weapons specifically, but do you think that there's something to this whole idea that we do have capabilities that secret technology or secret non-lethal technologies that might be also affecting people adversely?
It seems that way.
Targeted?
It really does, unfortunately. Yeah. And targeted is the word to use, actually. I don't know why that is, why these people are targeted. Now, they give me different reasons why, so maybe that has something to do with it, family history, or just, government employees who are targeted, whatever it might be. So it really touches it. I'm glad you brought up Havana syndrome because it touches on the terrestrial and non-terrestrial sides of anomalous health incidences. So that's the exclusive. It's called UAP Investigates.
I'm super excited.
I'm
excited about it.
Yeah, it's a ton of work. 10 episodes, so that's what we settled on was 10 episodes. I have half of the season produced.
Okay.
Half to go, and it's gonna come out soon. That first episode is gonna come out soon, so I'll keep you updated on when.
Yeah, I'd love to. Like I said, I'd love to watch it and definitely talk about it. But so, I mean, is this what you're doing with abduction and that realm? Did it give you any hesitation at first? Like when you came into the topic, I know you said you were, a little bit afraid, like when you were younger. I mean, abduction is the most terrifying aspect of this whole thing, that you could just be taken out of your room, right? Or taking it up into a craft and wake up on a table. So does it give you a little bit of pause when you dive into a subject like this?
It does, but for another reason. So I'm not, and I don't say this in like a braggadocious way. I'm not afraid of being abducted. And what I mean by that is, from everything I've come across, maybe you've noticed the same thing, it feels like people are chosen from a younger age. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen for the first time to a 38, 39-year-old guy.
Yeah, I think we're past the abduction beginning point.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Here's a thing that I've been talking about with other people. Do you think the abduction phenomena has slowed down, or do you think it maybe has changed?
That's a great question. I don't think it's slowed down. I think, and this is just from an observational point of view, I think the conversation around it has changed, to your point. I think there's just so many other things that we talk about or notice or, tweet about or create content about, that the conversation, it's become one conversation point. Whereas in some cases before, it was like the thing, abductions, close encounters of the third kind, fire from the sky, all these different things. That was the thing. Now we talk about AHI, we talk about implants and all these other subjects. So it feels like it's still going on, just from what we hear, right? The people we talk to. But I think you're right. I think it's the conversation.
It's morphed a little.
Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. Think about if Pascagoula happened today.
Right.
What would it be like?
Yeah.
How would the world be impacted? A world that is so much more connected, and an event like that got a lot of coverage, or like the Phoenix Lights, something like. Do you think? I mean, because it's odd that with the rise in technological advancement, the amount of mass sightings has gone, or sightings like the Phoenix Lights, like Pascagoula, which was actually seen by a lot more people than people realize.
Yeah.
There's over 30 witnesses to that craft, and they all say the same thing. So, I don't think it's mass hallucination like others say. I think there is something to alien abduction, or abduction at least.
I think the one that gets me the most when you talk about that is the aerial school in Zimbabwe.
Very much.
That one gets me the most. Mid-90s, I believe, right?
Yep.
And for me, just I look at this from a parent standpoint of view. 2 kids. I have 2 kids, 10 and 8. Pretty much the age group of the school children in Zimbabwe when this happened. The craft lands, they all see these, aliens come off, they all describe it. And when I look at it from a parent's point of view, what I mean by that is it is extremely difficult to get kids to agree on something. And if you're going to put 20 to 30 school children in a room and say, you're all going to say you saw this, 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 and this. You're going to draw the same pictures. All your pictures are going to have this detail, that detail, and that detail. It is impossible.
Yes, I agree.
Impossible. Damn near impossible with 2 kids that I have. Literally impossible. It would be easier for me to create a wormhole in the corner of that room right now than to get 20 to 30 school children to agree on what they saw and to agree on what they saw in witnessing a UFO land and aliens come off. It just doesn't happen.
And then the added pressure of how much network coverage, how much coverage it was getting by people like John Mack.
Right.
Or was that the same one? But yeah. So, I mean, when you start putting cameras on kids, right, you're going to start seeing, you'll start seeing the flaws very soon.
Yes.
But there was something that is ever convincing about that story. And I think it is because of their children. And there's that aspect of the innocence. And what reason would they have to lie?
Exactly.
Right? Why would they lie?
Right.
It just doesn't really make sense. So, have you ever seen anything?
So
have you ever had a sighting?
The only thing that I can say that was close to a sighting, because I'm not an experiencer, I'm more of an, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I feel like people are chosen to a certain extent to experience or to be abducted.
Even just to see?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, when I say to see, I mean, I'm talking like orbs coming down at them, like that type of experience. Or maybe I should say close encounter. Like, I think anybody could see something go across the sky and be like, whoa, what was that? Which is pretty much what happened to me. So the only thing that I can say that I can point to was a couple of years ago. It was at my brother's house in South Florida. And we were standing out in this pool at night. And we all saw like this little light go. It was a circle, a little orb circle, go across the sky going north to south. And I was like, oh, guys, look, it's a satellite. I was telling my son was next to me, I'm like, son, look, a satellite. And he's like, oh, wow, cool, look at that. And we're all standing out there, my kids, my brother, his kids, his wife, my wife. And then another one came. I'm like, oh, this must be Starlink.
Right.
This is really cool.
Right.
And then another one came from east to west.
Now it's
different directions.
Intersecting.
Right. And then west to east. And then south to north. And it happened for like 10 minutes. These little white glowing orbs were going across the sky at about, that's what was throwing me off. It was about the speed of a satellite. Have you ever seen the satellite go across?
We saw them last night for like, I mean, most of the people call them UFOs on Facebook.
Right. And usually it's
sorry,
a satellite.
guys. Yeah.
So, and so you know that speed, it's faster than airplanes, faster than helicopter, but it's that steady light going across the sky.
Yes.
And
no variation.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, well, it's not a satellite because there'd be a lot of satellites flying around right now, back to back to back to back to back.
Right.
And it's not Starlink because those link up, and I've seen Starlink.
I've seen Starlink. It looks like a pearl, like a line of pearls.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that was. And it was all different directions. Like I said, back to back for about 5-10 minutes of these glowing orbs that just went across, and they all lasted about, I would say, maybe 30-second to 60-second intervals.
Yeah.
So that's the most.
Did you check for meteor showers?
No, but it wasn't moving like a meteor.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So it could have been, but it wasn't moving like that. It was slower.
And it was, but yeah, right. So I mean, if we look at what that's doing, right? So one's north south, one's east west. It's creating what is across, right?
Yeah.
So I want to pull this back. Do you think that there is a connection between, like you said earlier, what our ancestors and what ancient civilizations have took long periods of time to carve into the rock? Do you think that we're seeing the same thing that our ancestors and early civilizations saw, and the name is simply changed? Or do you think we're dealing with a lot of different phenomena and the world's just not black and white?
I think there might be something to that, where it might have been the same then. But I think they actually had more encounters,
less distraction, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. A deeper personalization with it than we have now. Like right now, that deeper personalization seems to be very limited to like a select few people who say, I've been on the craft. They speak to me, I speak to them. There are people like that out there for sure.
Yeah. They're all here.
Yeah, that's right. We've met a few. That's right. But it seems to be that they have been around longer than we have, and they've been interacting with the human race in different ways over the past few thousand years.
Well, what if I want to play a hypothetical here. What if we find out that they had a hand in our creation? Do you think the world would be ready to find out, like, daddy's home? I say that it's a very crude analogy, but why you feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson say, oh, why would they be interested in humans? I can think of one reason.
Right.
I can think of a couple actually. So what if they had a hand in our creation? And that's the big secret they don't want out, because are we ready to really meet our creator?
Yeah, it's definitely a facet to the conversation. There's no doubt about it, because one of the things I always talk about when it comes to why the secrecy, why do we continue to not disclose this, would be religion. And if you have a facet to this that says these beings helped to create us or created us, their God, like whatever that might be, that would be pretty damaging to society. Now, personal belief, I don't believe that. I do believe that there could have been an intervention. Like, I think you can have both. Just again, personal belief. I think you could say that God created man and the universe and whatever else is in the universe. And you could also say that some of his creation had a hand in manipulating his creation, the same way we manipulate animals.
Or CRISPR,
Yeah, I mean,
these all these new ideas.
Why
Just
not?
the same way we're God to what we assume will be general artificial intelligence.
Exactly right.
Right?
Why
We
not?
created it. And what if that is our purpose? Because like you look at every other animal or insect or just being on this planet, and it seems to have a function in the ecosystem. Humans really don't. They take more than they give to the planet, and we seem to serve no function except our own, right? And what if our function is then edited to create and to want to innovate and to keep creating and to not be satisfied ever and want, and that ultimately always leads to artificial intelligence and creating the next form of life? I mean, do you think it's hard because you don't want to isolate anyone religiously, but what if God is just, what if God is everything? What if everything is God? I mean, a recent study came out and said that every atom is conscious. What is consciousness?
Right.
Right?
Right.
All these questions, they fascinate me. So, and I know it's a lot I just hit you with a lot, but I really do think that they might have had a hand in our development, because there's a lot of things that it would explain. Explain the jump in our intelligence. There's the period where our brain doubles cosmically overnight. We went out against the Neanderthal, which is bigger, faster, stronger, and more equipped to live in a world like it.
Yeah.
We shed our pelts. We shed our fur only to need pelts in the winter. All these questions, that's what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, and it does. The theory makes sense. Now, can we say it's true? We have no idea.
Oh, the sun burns us.
Yes, right.
The very thing that gives us life burns us. It doesn't burn anything else except California, but
yeah.
right?
If only we were Superman and it gave us powers. But it's fair. I mean, are we talking about a theory of, like the movie Prometheus?
I love that.
That has always made sense to me. Again, if you want to, subscribe to God created all living things, which I do, then okay, God created tigers and created lions. Man created a liger.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very possible that there's other creation out there
that are playing that role of what we did with that.
Exactly.
Right. So that's a very interesting notion. Very interesting notion. I really want to say thank you for sitting down with me. And I know, taking time out of your schedule is we're all very busy here. But you're always a pleasure to talk to.
Yeah,
I really cannot wait to see. So where can people watch this series when it comes out, and how can people find you if they don't know already?
Yeah, it's going to be UAP Investigates. So it's going to be an offshoot of UAP. You'll be able to, it's going to be kind of weird. It's going to have a separate feed, but also be connected to UAP. So yeah, I'll have, I'll iron out the details there, but it's going to come soon. And like I said, 10 episode season. I hope to be able to do a second season on a different subject.
Okay.
possibly something like we were just talking about, actually.
Right.
Speaking of theologians and things like that, that's kind of an idea that's been percolated in my mind. But as far as this first season, AHI, Anomalous Health Incidences, I've already spoken to Jason Sands, Elizondo is a part of it. Linda Thompson, who some people might know.
I know Linda from UPonn, yeah.
Yes, she's
a wealth of knowledge, yeah.
Wait until
from a research standpoint or from like an experience?
Her experience.
Oh, okay.
Cool. It got to a point where she actually said to me, we recorded a few weeks ago, and she's like, I can't talk about that. I said, really? She's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that portion. Like, and it got to the point where, and I haven't told anybody this yet, actually, after I was done, my wife texted me, she's like, oh, how'd your interview go? I was like, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, I need a break. I have to go outside and walk around for like 10, 15 minutes. So she's a part of it. There's a lot of people in this who I've been able to speak to. Jeff Nusatelli, who's
I literally just talked to him today.
Great guy. He had the Red Cube incidents at Vandenberg Air Force Base.
I'm bringing him on to talk about it, yeah.
And he has his own personal story of an orb encounter and friends who have encounters like him. And so it all connects. It's all going to be within the 10 episodes. Like I mentioned, Mr. J, who was the inspiration to even do this subject to begin with. So there's a lot of incredible detail and stories in this. It all comes together. You're going to hear some familiar names and some familiar details mixed in with new names and new details.
Great.
UAP Investigates.
Well, I'll put a link or a QR code right here for anyone. It will bring you right to his page. Steve, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
man.
Tyler. Appreciate it.
I really enjoyed this. So let's get back to Contact in the Desert and get the next person on in here. Like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, leave a review. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. It helps with that pesky algorithm. My name's Ty, and this has been Total Disclosure.